Welcome to Wine Club. I'm Stephanie, and this is the playlist where I drink good wine while I whine about bad books. And today's offender is No Exit by Taylor Adams. I do want to leave a spoiler warning as I will be talking about major plot points in this, and I also want to preference this review by saying it is completely about the book and not about the author as a person. I respect every author that works to get their books published, and my review is solely about the book. So, as you can see, I got this from Book of the Month as an add-on to my May box, as I was also picking up Adams' work, The Last Word, and I really was hoping that I would like his books. But we're going to go ahead and take a look and see what No Exit promised to be about. A determined young woman must unmask and outwit a vicious psychopath in this tense and clever tale of suspense. On her way to Utah to see her dying mother, college student Darby Thorne gets caught in a fierce blizzard in the Colorado Rockies. With the roads impassable, she's forced to wait out the storm at a remote highway rest stop with no cell phone reception. Inside are some vending machines, a coffee maker, and 4 complete strangers. Desperate to find a signal to call home, the exhausted young art student goes back out into the storm and makes a horrifying discovery. In the back of the van parked next to her car is a little girl locked in an animal crate. Who's the child? Why has she been taken? And how can Darby save her? There's no way to call for help and no way out. One of her fellow travelers is a kidnapper. But which one? Trapped in an increasingly dangerous situation on the edge of civilization, with a child's life and her own on the line, Darby must find a way to break the girl out of the van and escape. But who can she trust? With exquisitely controlled pacing, Taylor Adams diabolically ratchets up the tension with every page. Full of terrifying blind twists and hairpin turns, as treacherous as a slick snow-covered mountain road, this brilliant thriller will have you on the edge of your seat and leave you breathless. So I was intrigued when I found out this was set in Colorado, as I am a Coloradan myself. But then it's not really set in Colorado, is it? It is, but it's a fictional part of Colorado. It's a part that doesn't exist. Why? All the roads and places are made up. I mean, really? CU Boulder is real. Utah is real. Why wouldn't you just have this take place at a rest area on I-70? I've been driving on I-70 when it gets shut down due to snow. It's very easy to Google things and make things more realistic. Also, make it more realistic with regards to the weather. It is -2 and the girl isn't freezing to death in the car. I digress. I will be honest, I was very surprised at the length of this, as we get into the main story pretty early on, and then I was curious how in the hell Adams was going to stretch the story out over 300 pages in essentially one setting. And props to him, he does pull it off, for the most part. I will say, I also give him props because I was invested in this book. I had to finish this once I started it. I read it in a day because the plot and the pacing pulled me in, and I could not put it down. I also give Adams kudos on where he places his reveals and twists. They are well placed, and they are well timed in the story. Though there were some surprises in the story, and moments where I had to flip back some chapters to see how the reveal also worked within the story. So, well played, Adams. Like, such as the brothers having the secret code words that were said, but they were innocuous enough that it didn't jump out to me, and obviously not to the characters. So that was really well done. But I have to say, I'm a little frustrated with Adams' work. I think he is a great writer. I really, really do. I think he can write interesting characters, he can think up interesting plots, and make you question what you know about certain characters. Where his work pisses me off to no end are his endings. Because I wanted to hurl this across the room during the last 10 to 15% of the book, and I felt the exact same way when I read The Last Word, also by him. That book and No Exit both suffer from endings that simply refuse to end. All I could think of was that scene in Austin Powers when Will Ferrell's character is supposed to be like dying and dead, but he just keeps surviving shit. But that was written to be comical and ridiculous and kind of poking fun at the trope of like supervillains. But this was played straight and it does not work. The ending of No Exit became cartoonish, and it dragged. I wanted to be in the building that blows up and be put out of my misery. My eyes almost rolled right out of my sockets and across the floor as the story just kept going. Like I said in my reading room review of The Last Word, land the freaking plane, Adams. Just bring the story home. Just end it. Please, just end it. In No Exit, we see Creepy Ashley, survive practically a nuclear explosion, and here he comes to chase her down some more. Like, come on! How? Just how? How is Ashley surviving all of these attempts Darby makes on his life? There's like three scenes of, oh, we're safe. Oh no, the kidnapper's right there and survived something that should have totally killed him. The repeated fake-out endings just sent me reeling. I was exhausted and infuriating that it just wouldn't be over. It was like that scene in The Wedding Crashers between Owen Wilson and Vince Vaughn, like, lock it up, you lock it up, lock it up, like, lock it up, Adams. I also did feel that Ashley was an interesting villain. Like, he's sadistic, but also stupid. And I get that that does happen, but it was just a bit hard to be scared of him at times. His dialogue was also, I assume, meant to be, like, menacing and scary, but I just thought it was cringy and funny, and it's not supposed to be funny. I mean, he has kidnapped a little girl and is threatening to kill everyone in this building, so, like, there's no jokes to be had, but just listening to him talk, I'm like, just punch him in the face, like, problem solved. There's a scene at the end, also, where, like, Darby and the little girl are running away, and Ashley is, of course, being able to chase them, even though he's been, like, shot at and set on fire. And he is screaming at her about how he and Darby could have been a good couple together, and I didn't know what to do with that. Like, it came out of nowhere. And was that just meant to add to, like, his overall ick factor? Because he's already at 100%. He can't get any worse. Ashley kind of felt like he was a character from a campy teen slasher flick that wandered out of his own canon and just fell into this book. He's a literal cartoon, and his being the villain comes off as comical. I think some subtlety to his character would have done wonders, but instead we just have this character that is truly just unbelievable, and at the end of the day, comical. I get that his brother Lars was set up to be the misdirect with the reveal that he and Ashley are brothers in kidnapping Jay, the girl, together, but in my mind, Lars was underutilized. They could have stretched that out a little bit more with her focused solely on Lars to then get hit with the reveal that, like, girl, you've been played. But we can't talk about our weird villains without talking about our heroine, Darby. At first, I actually liked Darby. She seemed to have a level head and wanted to play the situation as best as she could. She could also be very clever, resilient, tenacious, and she is capable of outsmarting Ashley by thinking 3 steps ahead. But Darby would also say stuff thinking that she had the upper hand when it's like, Miss, these guys use nail guns on children. Maybe keep your witty comebacks and quips to yourself until you know that you have the upper hand. Now is not the time to be a little smartass. Though some of her lines were genuinely funny at times. I don't even know at this point. This book was something else. But I could not buy that some of the conflict comes down to her leaving her phone charger in her dorm room. No way. No freaking way does that happen in this day and age. Darby is a college girl and would not leave her place for an overnight trip without having a charger on her, or at least in her car, or stop at the nearest 7-Eleven and pick one up. Nope. Took me right out of the story. You want to ramp up the tension about her phone? Fine. She drops it getting out of the car at the rest area, and the screen cracks, making it hard for her to push any buttons. She does have a charger in her car, but the cable is fraying and finally snaps in two. Or she's trying to call someone or use data, and the storm is making it harder for her phone to get a signal, thus draining her battery faster. There were so many ways around this because I just do not expect me to believe that Darby is super smart, when she makes a pretty silly decision like that. It does not happen. It doesn't happen. Darby also makes some other questionable choices that kind of made me want to reach into the book and slap her. But she did not deserve the torture she got in the end. It really became a lot to stomach, and it felt like it was disgusting and vile and gruesome just for the shock value, not because it really added to the story or her need to survive. I mean, truly, how much can this girl take? Why am I reading torture porn? I didn't sign up for this. I like thrillers, not Saw and Hostel. It just became overwhelmingly repulsive and gross, and truly, it is a miracle that Darby survives what she does. Although, on the other hand, Darby also has some plot armor, as she is running outside in practically sub-zero temperatures and is ill-prepared for it, but she's fine. This isn't a problem. We never hear about her fingers losing feeling, her nose running, her eyes watering from the cold. She also, falls down the side of the mountain and, comes out unharmed. Ma'am, what? You would hit a tree and some rocks for sure. But I do suppose this takes place in faux Colorado, so maybe she would be fine. The rules don't apply. It just felt so weird that Ashley and Lars are able to inflict serious harm, and we have to read about it in excruciatingly every single gory detail. But her toes aren't getting frostbite as she runs through waist-deep snow in canvas shoes. Okay, then. And I said this in my reading room review too, and it is a small thing, but it drove me up the wall. That Darby is supposed to be this 5'2", 110-pound girl, because it's repeated multiple times, which also I have a hard time believing that later she's able to launch herself through this window that's 8 feet tall when she's only 5'2" and 110 pounds, but she also wears size 8 shoes. I'm sorry. What? I mean, truly, no offense if this is you, but this girl has giant feet. Someone that small would wear a size 5, maybe a size 6, or something like that. I'm aware this is a very small issue, but it really jumped out at me, especially since it's referenced several times throughout the book about her size 8 feet. It does not add up to me. The math is not mathing. I also wasn't quite sure how I felt about Jay, the kidnapped girl. She's young. I think she's supposed to be 7, and has been kidnapped and tortured. But she just kind of seems to go with the flow. She's relatively calm about everything that's happening around her. And we don't get some explanation of they've been drugging her or even supplying her with alcohol or something to keep her compliant. She was childlike and impulsive when it made sense to the plot. Otherwise, she kind of just fell in line and was the perfect mature human being in the other scenes. Is she a kid or not? Either make her a realistic child, because she should be scared, angry, grumpy, tired, and essentially on the verge of having a temper tantrum with all that she has been through. She talked above her vocabulary range and sounded like a teen or someone that's on the same level as Darby until the book required her to be a helpless child again. Ugh. I did end up giving this a 3-star rating because I loved the first 90% of it. I really did. I probably would have rated this a 4, even a 4.5-star read if the ending had been tighter. And I think Adams can work on his endings. He would be an autobi author for me. But the 2 books of his that I have seem to follow the signature style of having endings that go on way past their expiration date. I also noticed that Adams has a signature style when it comes to his plots. He's got a smart but depressed female protagonist, an isolated setting, and a truly vile creeper as the antagonist, and they have a battle of wits until a battle to the death, which goes on forever, and it just becomes absurd. It's like he doesn't want the book to end, or I don't want the book to end at the beginning when I start reading it, but when it should be over, I just want it to stop. It's not necessarily a bad thing to have a signature style, because I like Dan Brown books. I know, hot take. But it's because I know they're somewhat templatized, but they're still fun. I'm still going to enjoy reading them. So it is just something that I have noticed after reading 2 books by Adams, and especially 2 Book of the Month picks by Adams. Like, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. In fact, I'm also going to say this is probably going to be a pretty controversial opinion, but I do not read Riley Sager anymore for kind of the same reason. Well, I mean, there are a few reasons I don't read Sager anymore, but one, I think he writes poor female protagonists and could probably use a few more women beta readers. Like, one of his books that I actually did enjoy, but like, I was dying laughing reading this scene. So one of his main characters is getting her first period, and no, homegirl is straight up dying with the amount of blood that seems to be coming out of her. Like, blood is saturating the mattress. She needs medical attention. So I just think he needs some work on writing his female protagonists. The other reason I don't read Sager is because of his cop-out endings. He leans so heavily into supernatural stuff, but never lets it be that way. And then the explanation behind the stuff to make it like fit reality is not good in my opinion. It feels like Sager wants to pull the rug out from under his readers, and I don't like it. Adams kind of feels the same way when he's like, hee hee, they'll never guess my twists. Well, no shit, Adams. It doesn't count that we can't guess them when there are 900 of them, and your books just won't end. All in, this was an entertaining read in kind of like a horror movie-like way. I really do wonder if Adams wants to be a screenwriter, as his stories fall more in line with that type of writing, because his work is very cinematic and follows a lot of movie tropes like jump scares and movie-style twists with so much action at the end. This book is Michael Bay meets The Evil Dead, meets American Psycho, meets Saw 2, meets Split, meets Home Alone, and how these villains can just pop back up after being shot at and practically blown up. It's ridiculous. But that ending, man, I tell you, I was mad. I was so freaking mad that it ruined the entire reading experience. Again, I liked this for 90% of the book. Same way I felt about Last Word. If Adams can just work on actually bringing his books to a conclusion, again, fantastic writer. He's a great writer. But his endings have just ruined the entire reading experience. And that is the last thing that you want to do as a writer. You do not want to leave your readers with a bitter taste in their mouth. And that is how I felt with this book. So tell me, have you read No Exit by Taylor Adams? Did you like it? Am I the one who just doesn't get it here? Because it very well could be. Let me know what you thought of the book in the comments below, or if you have any other recommendations of really good thrillers. I'm always looking to add to my to-be-read pile. Otherwise, thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next time at Wine Club.